First of all then, tell me your name and tell me what you do.
My name is Andrew Scott and I'm a freelance management trainer and coach.
And you're an author, so tell us about your book.
So the book is called Shifting Stories, and there's just a few key ideas that I'd like to put across here. The first is that the way we understand reality, our perception of reality, is in fact a story that we make up. Our brain constructs an understanding that is based on what we see and what we hear, but is always interpreting. There's too much data to be able to compute all of it. So our brain selects what it sees as relevant and makes up a view of reality that we can understand. So that's the first key idea. The second thing is that about the same reality, we all have many stories available to us. So if I think, for example, about my relationship with my wife, my main story about that relationship is that she's very loving and supportive and loyal and so on and so on. That's a very positive story. But there's also other stories available to me. There's that story about how irritating she can be with a certain tone of voice at a certain time of day in a certain situation. And that's also a story based on reality.
So what you're saying is your wife is a real nag?
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that we have multiple stories available to us about the same reality. And if I choose to attend to the story of my wife as being difficult, then a number of things follow from that. One is she's likely to become more difficult because I will behave differently towards her. So recognise that we have multiple stories available to us and then that we have a choice as to which stories we attend to can change our lives and our relationships very significantly. And that's what the book's about.
So in a business situation, what do you think that business people are going to take from Shifting Stories?
Okay, well, the book applies this basic understanding to 4 different scenarios or situations in business. One is coaching, helping people to get the best out of themselves as a leader. One is working with teams and helping teams work effectively. One is working with change and helping people cope and manage change effectively. And one is dealing with conflict. And in each of these cases, helping people to discover positive stories that are full of positive possibilities and then live as though those stories are true and make those stories come true can have very profoundly beneficial effects for the business.
So if you're in a business situation then and you absolutely hate your boss and they hate you, is there a way of changing the story?
Yes. And in fact, I have coached people in exactly that situation. I've helped them to rewrite their stories about their boss, about themselves and about the relationship between them, so they find a much more positive working relationship as a result.
How do you go about doing that?
Well, there's 3 phases. The book has a model, a process for this. There's 3 phases. One is to really start to loosen the grip of the unhelpful story by recognising it is a story. It's not an absolute account of truth, and looking for maybe the exceptions where it doesn't quite apply. And the second phase is to discover more helpful stories by considering those exceptions, and there's a process of questioning one can use to help people recognise there are other ways of making sense of their reality. And once you can discover a more helpful story, the third phase is then to what I call enrich the plot of that more helpful story, both by reinterpreting the past in the light of this new, more helpful story. So, for example, if I thought my boss was always on my case and always picky on my work, one interpretation of that is he doesn't trust me. But there are other interpretations that I could apply, and if some of those are more positive and suggest more positive motivation by my boss, that will change how I behave to him, which in turn will change how he behaves to me.
A lot of people will say, you can't change people. In many cases, if your boss just doesn't like you, you're never ever going to get on. It's a personality clash.
A lot of people will say that, but actually a lot of people are mistaken to say that. The evidence is actually that you can change people, you can change relationships. And that there's a lot of evidence of this, and there's many ways to do it. And this Shifting Stories approach is one of those ways.